Hello everybody, welcome back to Learning Biology 15.2 Part 4. Okay, so in the previous video we've mentioned about the yellow spots and the blind spots. Okay, so first of all, don't worry about this practice. We'll do this in class, and this is quite a fun activity about the blind spots. Okay, so there is just one key message. So for the last part in a previous video, we've said that there are images formed on the blind spots, but only that, since there are no photoreceptors, it will not stimulate the photoreceptors and we cannot detect them. So we cannot see the vision, all right, that is formed, or see the image that is formed on the blind spots. So please make sure that you get this concept correct. And one last thing I missed out last time is, as always, please keep this as a habit. Please finish these exercises yourself after studying or watching this video. Okay? So if there's no problem, we'll get started to this section. Alright? So this section, we're going to talk about something a little bit more complicated. Alright? So we're going to talk about two situations. 有兩個情況嘅。The first situation, as you can see here, is about the bright light and dim light. 一個光嘅啦，同埋一個冇咁光啦嘅一個 situation. And then the other situation we're going to talk about is different distances. Okay? So these two concepts are very important, and please do not mix them up. 唔好混亂. Alright? So always make sure that you understand one part before you move on to the other part. So we'll start with the easier one, that is about the bright light and dim light. Okay? So remember, we've said that there are two pairs of structures inside our eyes. One of them is the iris and pupil. Please write it down here, next in a blank space, alright? This is the first pair. So iris and pupil. So first of all, remember, iris is the muscle, 係一個肌肉嚟嘅. But then, we need to know a little more details. So there are two sets of muscles. 有兩組嘅啦. One of them is called the circular muscle and the other one is called the radial muscle. Alright? So just like the our digestive system again. So if you still remember what is peristalsis, 蠕動啦, of your stomach, of your esophagus. Alright? So you know that there are always like two sets of muscles. One contract, the other one relax, the other one contract, another one relax. Okay, so they're always doing the opposite things. So again, when there is muscle, remember these two words. 記一記呢兩隻字啦. One of them is contract and the other one is relax. 得唔得? Okay, so the iris will control the size of the pupil. 去控制個 size 啦, and therefore the amount of light entering the retina or the eye. Okay? So in bright light condition, bright light situation, 好光嗰陣時啦, I prefer you to remember the definition of these two muscles first. Okay? So circular, what does it mean? Just like circle. Okay? So if they're like arranged in circle, this one will be the circular muscle. So what does it mean by radial muscle? Radial 好似一個放射線咁樣嘅. Alright? So in Chinese, you can see that it's 叫放射機啦. So this one is the radial, the one on the right hand side. Okay? So this one is like 好似一個放射輻射咁樣啦. So it's like radial. Okay? So in bright and I will only prefer you to remember the radial muscle. Okay? I'll talk about that in a minute. So first one, in bright light, it says that, okay, circular muscle contracts, radial muscle relax. And then, remember this verb, okay? The pupil constrict, or you can say, use an easier word, we say the pupil becomes smaller, okay? But never say that the pupil contracts. It is very wrong. Again, pupil is not a muscle. You may use constrict or you can use become smaller. Okay? And then less light is allowed to enter the eye. Okay, so very easy. Now imagine the situation. The first one is when there is bright light, so there is a lot of light. Will you need a lot of light getting into your eyes? Of course, no, right? Because if there are a lot of light entering your eye will like get blind, right? It would damage your eyes, right? So therefore, first of all, we think from the backwards. We think backwards. 由後邊諗返上嚟嘅. So how do you do that? First one, your pupil. It should be smaller, right? So if it is smaller, that means these radial muscle, they should relax. Why? You can just imagine these radial muscles are like a rope. 好似一條線咁樣，或者一條繩咁樣嘅. They're just like ropes. Okay? And they are like pulling. 係拉緊嘅啦, pulling the pupil. So if they're relaxing, they're not pulling. So when they're not pulling the pupil, you can see the pupil is very small in size, right? And then what happened to the circular muscle? Because the radial muscle is relaxing, the circular muscle will be contracting. Okay? So the other one, so the opposite situation is the dim light. Again, this time, dim light, not enough light. I want more light to enter my eye, right? So therefore, the pupil should be bigger. It should get bigger, or we can say the pupil should dilate. 自己讀到呢個字啦, dilate. Alright? And therefore, since the radial muscle is just like the rope, 好似一條繩咁樣啦, again, they try to like pull it. Okay? They try to pull the pupil to become larger in size, right? So in this case, the radial muscle contracts. And since it is contracting, the circular muscle relax. Alright? And this time, since the pupil dilate, it gets larger and more light can enter the eye. Alright? So this diagram, we have seen similar things earlier when we talk about the internal structure. Okay? But then there is one importance, 有個重要嘅位置嘅. That is, so why do we need to like make our pupil look smaller when there is a strong light? Because this prevents the photoreceptor from being damaged. 係防止佢哋受到 damage by the bright light. Okay? And then why do we need the pupil to become bigger or dilate when we are under dim light? 點解需要呢? Because we need the photoreceptors, we need to give them enough light, 有足夠嘅光啦, to allow the photoreceptors to be stimulated. Okay? When they are stimulated, they will generate nerve impulse and they'll give you a better or clearer image. Alright? So this blue box is telling you do not use contract, do not use relax. Please only use constrict or dilate. Okay? And then we're going to talk about the pupil reflex action. Alright? So as you can see from this diagram, you can see the doctor carries out this a lot after the patient has encountered some accident. 即係當個病人啦遇到啲意外嗰陣時啦, so the doctor will make checkup on the patient. Alright? So this reflex action, we'll see this word a lot in chapter 16 because it is related to the nervous system, 同個神經系統有關㗎啦. And it is usually very quick and automatic, 自動同埋好快嘅. Alright? So it's very much the same. You can see that after stimulation, the brain will send nerve impulse to give this reaction to make the pupil size smaller or larger. Alright? Of course, when the torch is shown on the patient's eye, the pupil will constrict. 咁就會變細咗啦. Alright? This way, the doctor can see if there are some problems going on to the patient's eye or the nervous system. Okay? So before ending this video, of course, please finish this part, these two questions. And I would just like to talk about the following concepts a bit, just a very little bit. Alright? So just to remind you, earlier we've talked about this, that there are two sets of structures. And as you can see here, one of them is about the iris and pupil. Okay? So this one is about a different light condition. One of them is bright light and the other one is dim light. Okay? But then, in the next video, we're going to talk about things from different distances. And we're using three other structures. They are So please write it down in the blank space, okay? So you will see lens, suspensory ligament, and the ciliary muscles. Alright, so that's all for this video, and I'll talk more about this concept in the next one. That's all, and bye bye.